Hello and welcome to Europhoria, the podcast all about the great glam and garish of Eurovision past. My name is Roland Bodnam, and as ever, I am joined by a woman who is popular. She is popular. She got real popular. It's Isobel Chilman.
Oh, that's real nice of you.
Hi Isobel, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm quite tired.
Yes.
It's quite late here in the UK for this one, but I'm soldiering on. I've got a snoozing Patsy next to me. As soon as I got my podcast bag up and out, obviously if there's a bag, she'll have a sleep on it.
Oh, bless. Do you think she knows now not what a podcast is, but that you do a thing where she can sit next to you for a while whilst you talk into a weird object?
Yeah, maybe she knows it's quiet time for her. Although my illusions of her being a smart animal were shattered today.
Oh no.
Because I know that she's a bit problematic on our street sometimes. People tell me Patsy stories. I saw your cat. She was sat out in the road, or she ran out in. Yeah. Please don't put the fear of God in me. I fully understand. She's an idiot. Didn't understand how much of an idiot she was until I was coming down my street today after work. Saw a car slowly drive in front of my house and stop in the road. A bike going the opposite direction stopped, and they seemed to be having a chat. And I thought, what are they doing?
Oh no!
Looked down, could see Patsy lying in the middle of the road.
My God.
Right, I was freaking out because I thought, she's been hit, she's dead, something's happened. She's just lying there. They're trying to work out what to do with a dead cat. I ran over. No, my cat was fine. She was lying in a road in my road outside my house.
Oh my God.
Allowing a car to drive around her because she was too focused on a pigeon. I was lucky that the guy in the car thought it was very funny, and the guy on the bike had a right giggle at me when I went chasing over and then picked her up. Yeah. And was swearing at her, and he was like, maybe she's hungry. And I was like, she's well fed, thank you. Yes. She's just a moron.
Oh, bless.
So now she's on house arrest.
Okay.
I'm not letting her outside for the foreseeable.
That's for poor behaviour. As it's so late over there, Isobel, are you helping yourself to a drink?
No, I'm not. I'm not drinking tonight. I'm full of cold.
Yeah. Oh,
so I'm having a lovely glass of H2O.
Ooh, H2O from the pipes of London.
East London specifically, the best kind of water.
Yes. I do have some wine. However, I think this is a podcast first. My wine today is coming in the form of a box. So
oh my God, box wine. Shut up.
It is box wine. It is called Box. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon from California. I don't know how I'm going to make this sound because it requires two hands. Oh, God. Hang on. Oh.
It sounds like you're having a wee.
I was just going to say it sounds like I'm having a wee. Well, there we go. Cheers, mate. Cheers to you. Here we go.
Wine, delicious.
Lovely. Okay, we got to move on because for a number of reasons, we've got quite a lot of emails and quite a lot of story to tell. So we are moving on to some any other business. We are going to do... Actually, before we do emails, Isobel, off the back of your rather wonderful big fat Europhoria quiz, we got some people who took part themselves and gave us their scores. Should we do a rundown of worst to first, some of the scores that we got in?
Yeah, well, I think worst was yours, mate. I'm afraid.
That's fine. I'm fine taking that crown there.
No, we did. Thank you to everyone who got in touch. So the wonderful @film52 on Twitter email. No, they didn't email because it's on Twitter. They tweeted. I'm quite tired. Can you tell? Saying they got 13 points. They guessed Sylvia Knight, but for the wrong song. What do you like?
That's good. Getting Sylvia Knight though. It's tough.
Oh, very good. And @Peter_Spencer_ got 19.
Wow.
Said he loves a quiz. I was straight in there with Sylvia Knight because it's been on their playlist ever since they listened to your story about her.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, and the lovely Taylor got in touch now. I think we have a winner.
Yes, I think we have a winner. The lovely Taylor, this one was over email, scored a rather impressive 22 points there, way out in front. Congratulations, Taylor. Not only are you spreadsheet mastermind, podcast ultra fave, you are now the reigning champion of the Big Fat Europhoria quiz.
Love it.
Love it. Oh, well, there we go. That is the scores. Let's move on because we do have some emails. Our first email actually comes from Speak of the Devil, Taylor herself, our friend from Florida. Taylor says, "Hello, Isobel and Roland. That's a lot of E's. You filled up my heart once again. I was spam texting my reactions to my mother through the entire episode. She'll have quite a lot to read when she wakes up." And she says, "And what an episode. It's after midnight here, but my brain is always buzzing awake enough when it comes to Eurovision quizzing." She gives her score there of 22 out of 33. Congratulations. She updates us. Do you remember we were talking about her translating a song for us? One of the songs that I've already written. So she says on a preliminary scan, she would love to try either Easy Come, Easy Go, which you remember was the breakup song that was quite poorly timed for you.
Yeah, you did that one when I was dumped.
Like almost to the day. Anyway, moving on. Can't Tie Me Down, which was a sort of female group kind of empowerment one, or she says Can't Tie Me Down in French, or Strange Things in Russian. I like the idea of Strange Things in Russian, so that's very exciting. So I think I'm gonna send Taylor a couple of those backing tracks and see what she does with them.
Yeah, I'm into that. I'm really into that idea.
Yep.
Yes, please, Taylor. Very fun. See if you can get more points than Roland did for those songs.
Wow. Yeah, I think that would be fair, the translation alone. Taylor says, "I can't wait to hear your episodes on the 2019 contest songs, and they will be coming out fairly soon." She says, "P.S. to Isobel, congrats on having Patsy for 2 years now. I now feel obliged to show off my boy, Sonny. He's 8 years old and loves belly rubs." Remember we had some cats on before.
Cats of Eurovision.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the photos.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a big ginger boy. He's got a lovely tum and a lovely face.
So maybe we'll share those on Twitter as well if we're allowed, Taylor. Thank you very much for showing us your cat, for sharing us your score, and for potentially doing some amazing translations too. We have another email from Olga Kralin. Olga says, "Boy crush. This was amazing." Quoting the line, "I want to know you when we are old" is the best bit. You absolutely have to make a music video to go with that. Olga says, "I found your podcast last year and I did listen to all of the old podcasts since then. I love you guys. Keep on being awesome. Much love from Canada." Where nobody even knows about the Eurovision. Olga, we had someone from Canada last time, didn't we?
Yeah, clearly. Canada, they're going to take that crown from Iceland as our biggest fans.
Oh, yeah, we got to get on the Canadian charts.
They always say if you make it big in Canada, you've made it big globally.
I'm pretty sure Sinatra did a song about that, didn't he? I can't remember. Okay, we have another email from, and you may recognize this name from some time ago, Thomas Barlow, and the subject line is "An old listener returns."
Oh my God, I do, Thomas.
Yeah. Dear Isobel and Roland, hello, my dears. It has been such a long time since I've written. In fact, it was such a long time since I listened.
How rude.
Thomas.
How rude. You never admit that.
He says, "I am so sorry." And to be fair, he says, "I went travelling around for a few months and have now returned back to Europe, back to Bulgaria, just in time for the Eurovision season. It seems I have many podcasts to catch up on and cannot wait. I've just listened to the pub quiz and managed to best Roland by 1 point." I feel...
you still in the
I know. I feel slightly okay though that scores were at least around my score. They weren't like full marks or whatever. I hope you are well, and I hope that you're as excited as I am for the contest this year. Like I said, I need to catch up on your recent episodes, so I have no idea what you think of this year's songs, but I love Iceland and I love Slovenia. Not sure you can get two more different songs. Disappointingly, Bulgaria has withdrawn. So not only do I not get to support both the UK and Bulgaria, I also don't get a vote. Sad face. A few weeks ago...
that's the worst.
I know, that is... I mean, you get to adopt another country, but yeah, it's sad that you don't get a vote, isn't it? It's undemocratic. Thomas continues, a few weeks ago, I visited North Macedonia. That's the new name for... Macedonia, isn't it? They changed their name. We didn't address this. Oh. They, as a country, are now North Macedonia.
Not FYR Mace.
They're not. They're no longer former Yugoslavic Republic of Macedonia. They are now North Macedonia.
They'll always be FYR Mace
I know. It's like when Czech Republic changed their name to Czechia, except they kind of didn't. So they're still... I don't even know. It's weird.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, FYR Mace are officially North Macedonia now. Anyway.
Okay, good to know.
Thomas says, a few weeks ago, I visited North Macedonia. Whilst in the hostel, I heard Malta's song for this year being played, which is a great song. I ran to the balcony to find the guy working in the hostel playing it. We began talking about Eurovision for the next 2 hours. We ended up having a few drinks of rakia in the evening, listening to plenty of Eurovision classics. He knew the entire dance routine for Fuego, and I was mighty impressed. That sounds like my perfect evening.
It is your perfect evening.
It is my perfect evening.
The whole dance routine for Fuego. I haven't learned that. Should I learn that for this Eurovision?
Mate, I tell you what, that would be quite something. You need some more hair, though, mate. Get yourself a wig.
I've got a wig.
Well, you do have a wig. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Thomas says, anyway, thank you so much for your podcast. I forgot just how much I love listening to you. Much love. Still your only listener in Bulgaria? Question mark. Tom.
I think so.
P.S. Roland, I adore the song. So a lot of love
it's the best.
For the song.
It's one of the best ones. Boy Crush. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? People love it. We're going straight on. Another email. This is quick. Stop me if it's too much.
Okay.
Hello, Roland and Isobel. You may recall a lovely email you received a little while ago from Ross, PhD. Well, I'm the boyfriend he got onto your podcast.
Oh my goodness!
I just
is this also a PhD? Is this another doctor?
Well, I don't know. He doesn't say, but let's assume he is.
I'd say yes.
I just wanted to write and say that I also enjoy your news and stories and song and everything Eurovision. There are some podcasts that I listen to because I enjoy the subject matter, but the hosts just aren't as entertaining and fabulous as you two. These are my favourite emails, the ones that just compliment us.
Oh, yeah. All I want is an ego boost. I'm really doing that. To get people to say how much they like me.
How lovely we are. Like a lot of people, I listen to you on my commute quite often, so unfortunately I'm not able to also pop a bottle of wine when listening. But it's so great that that's the tradition for you two. Cheers.
Oh, it is great.
I mean, you could pop a bottle of wine on the morning commute, but you know.
Get some odd looks.
You would get some odd looks.
What? You live your life.
Maybe.
You live.
Yeah.
Just
maybe
be the truest you that you want to be.
Maybe on one of the Eurovision semi-final days, just as a little celebration.
Lovely. I was tempted. We're doing a lot of celebratory things this week to do with a conference that I'm working on, and I almost on Monday. God, that's only yesterday. I almost yesterday took in some Prosecco to have in the morning because I thought it would look great on social.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to have a drink, and I was I'm not. Maybe Monday morning is too early. Maybe on the Friday morning I can take in a mimosa breakfast. That's fine.
Anyway, the email continues. I was first introduced to Eurovision when I was about 23, which is pretty late and horrendously sad. But on the bright side, there was lots to get caught up on. It was an English friend of mine who had moved to Canada. So it was Ross who was from Canada the last time, and this is Ross's partner. Yeah. So still only, 3, but two separate ones, that told me about it. When this glorious yearly event came to my attention, I was hooked because, let's be real, it's just so ridiculous and amazing.
It is those two things.
And now, of course, Ross and I watch every year #Eurovision Religion.
Oh, that's such a good hashtag.
It's a very good hashtag.
That's so good.
Yes. Anyways, keep up the awesome work. Roland, I am in awe, and there's more compliments now, that you are creating all of these super creative songs. You, like Verka, are an inspiration. Isobel, give Patsy a pat for Ross and I.
I will do right now.
Lots of love from the land of beavers, maple syrup, and sexy mounties, Matt. Thank you, Matt.
Matt, that's such a nice email. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm giving Patsy a little pat right now. She's having a little snooze. Patsy.
Okay, we have one final email. It says, "Good evening, Isobel and Roland. Here are the points from the Danish jury."
Great start.
Great start.
Great start to an email.
I love Europhoria. I am a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh my God,
Very
I'm in love
exciting.
with this person already.
Yeah. I've seen Eurovision for as long as I remember. For the last 19 years, my friends and I have seen Eurovision together, either at the home of one of us with drinks, scoreboards, flags and glitter, or at various Copenhagen gay bars. In 2013, in the bar Heaven, the AC went out, so there I was, covered in sweat, alcohol and gay guys.
Oh, delicious.
Happy, dancing and sweating and jumping because Emily de Forest had won.
Oh, what a delicious evening.
That
Fully up for that. That's how all Eurovision evenings should be.
Pure Eurovision, right?
Sweat, booze, gays. That's all you need.
That is
all you need.
the dream.
Glitter chucked in for a bit of fun, but it's the sweat, booze, booze, gays.
Yeah, that's it. It goes on, inspired by your podcast and the talk of spreadsheets.
Oh, love a
I
spreadsheet.
have made a Eurovision all-time favourite songs by country list, i.e. the countries I have a favourite from.
Oh, wow.
To choose one favourite from Sweden and my home country Denmark was quite difficult. There are so many options. Diggy Loo, Diggy Lay from 1984 was my first Swedish Eurovision love. My friends and I put a poster of Herres on the classroom wall because we loved them. We were 8 years old at the time.
Oh.
From Denmark, I choose the entry of 2001 when the Eurovision was held in Copenhagen for the first time in my lifetime. I love the song Never Ever Let You Go, even though it only made second place. In 1986, I desperately wanted to be Sandra Kim from Belgium, and I later sang alongside... I don't know if this is actually alongside...
What?
And later I sang alongside Johnny Logan from Ireland. Do you think that means
Actually?
I can't tell if that's lost in translation and it was like a karaoke song, or you're gonna have to give us more details if you actually sang alongside Johnny Logan.
Yeah, I want to know about that.
To this day, I love dancing to Making Your Mind Up from the UK and Wild Dances from Ukraine.
Classics.
And I love Dreaming to Nocturne from Norway and Amar Pelos Doir from Portugal. I would love to hear or see your list. Douze points from Mette. P.S. I agree with you. Petra and Mans should host Eurovision every year.
Yeah, so I think we're all agreed on that.
We have this amazing list from, I think it's Mette, it might be Met, of Eurovision all-time favourite songs by country.
Yeah.
Maybe we can post this on Twitter as well, because we probably can't go through every one, and get some other people to share spreadsheets. I feel like we're becoming the Eurovision / spreadsheet podcast.
Yeah, for sure. This is mainly going to be spreadsheets by the next
From
series.
here on out.
Just spreadsheets. Just send us your best spreadsheets.
Eurovision off season.
I'm interested to see them. It really makes me happy. Some colour coordination, conditional formatting, a pivot table.
If you do a formula in there, some
really
formulas.
get me hot under the collar with this.
Well, thank you very much for sending us your emails. As we say, we always love it. New and old listener alike, we love you sending us your emails. If you would like to email us, you can email us at europhoriapodcast@gmail.com, or
you can contact us on Twitter at EurophoriaCast or at Isobel Chilman at Roland Bodnam. And also rate, review, subscribe on iTunes or whatever you're listening on. Please. We had a couple of new reviews recently, which is very nice. You can get that 4.5 back up.
Yes.
A bit higher after the 1-star
Some
review
angry person gave us 1 star for some
never
reason.
mind. Can't please everyone all the time,
No.
can you?
No.
No. And clearly we haven't.
So actually, I've done this in the wrong order because normally we do
Eurovision news.
Normally we do that first, and we'll be really quick with it. So I've got one thing that I think Isobel... Well, I think I've got 2 things that will make you angry, actually.
For fuck's sake.
First up, I wanted to highlight a bit of wonderful news, but then the shitty backlash from it has been shitty. The wonderful environmental activist Greta Thunberg, the young woman who has been touring various political establishments and came to the UK last week. It's not news to some people, but it was spread around the press this week that she is the daughter of Swedish pop singer and Eurovision star Malena Ernman. You saw this news, Isobel, didn't you? I saw you tweeting about it.
Oh yeah, very exciting.
Yes.
Very exciting. As I said, that family is getting more powerful with each generation. Just think about the kids that Greta's going to have. Mum was a Eurovision star. She is going to save the world from our awful, unsustainable actions.
Yeah.
The next one, just going to be all-powerful leader.
Who knows?
Probably.
Who knows? But she's amazing. The shitty backlash, of course, was people going, "Oh, what a privileged child she is because her mother."
That's mental. Look at certain countries, Moldova or San Marino, half of the country's gone for Eurovision. Doesn't make you privileged, just means that you're the person's name they picked out of a hat.
Yeah.
Or you were good. Sorry, that's very rude, isn't it? But in some cases it is.
Yeah.
And in others, Valentina. And in others, it's it's that your mum was a pop star 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you privileged. I love that one of the people that was saying that was that awful Toby Young.
Fucking
Just needs to be given and I'm not going to give him much. But his father called up Oxford University and got him in because he didn't get in the first time. So
that's privilege.
We're going to talk about privilege. I think it's probably that and not the girl that's trying to make us all not die within the next decade.
And also the double standard that no one made a fuss when, and God love them, we have a bit of a soft spot for them, but the fact that Bucks Fizz were going to perform at Bpop Live's Brexit concert for the night of the referendum itself until it was cancelled. But sorry to say that Bucks Fizz were going to be performing at Brexit Live.
Why?
Yeah, I know.
Are they Brexiters?
I think it was probably the 2 men in the group rather than the women. Not saying that the women have no say in the matter, but they strike me as more...
as the wrong uns.
More of the wrong uns.
Oh, no, they're all wrong uns in my eyes now.
Here's something else to make you even angrier, Isobel. Which I think is... This might be worse than Madonna. As we know, from the rant last week, Madonna is scheduled to perform at the Eurovision halftime show. There are rumours, though, Isobel, that there is going to be another, not performance, but let's call it a skit performed at the Eurovision halftime show in Israel this year. A skit. The rumour is, among Eurovision fan sites, Isobel, that James Corden has been approached to do a carpool karaoke skit with Gal Gadot for this year's show.
No.
I don't know, Isobel, what will happen because...
No, I'm not having this. Do not let him near my Eurovision. He is the world's worst human. Why does he have to stick his mucky little fingers into everything that is good in the world?
Every single thing.
Oh my God, why? He has nothing to do with Israel.
No.
He has nothing to do with Eurovision.
No, absolutely
I hate him. This is going to be the worst Eurovision that's ever happened.
Well, I think it's just the halftime show, and you're just going to have to distract and divert during it. So that people don't see Madonna.
I am livid.
Listen, it's only rumours. It might not happen, but I thought it was worth saying just for your reaction.
Showbiz worm getting involved in things that aren't for him. This isn't for him. This isn't for you, James.
I think all of what we've said is okay to say legally. I
think that's fine.
I will review it in the edit, and if this section is very short, then we've said something probably litigious. But we'll move on quite quickly. All right, so that's the news, and that's the any other business. That's quite a long time.
Great.
So we are going to move on to my also reasonably extended story.
So, excellent. Well timed.
I'm going to do my best to keep.
We're doing this very late.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do my best to keep this episode under an hour, but we will see. Okay. This week we are going way back. We are going all the way back to 1905, and we are in Bremerhaven, which is in a small town on the northwest German coast. Lale Andersen was born Elisabeth Carlotta Helena Bertha Bunnenberg. She was born, as you do, to her mother, who I couldn't really find anything out about, and to her father, who was a steward on a ship. But they're not really that important to this story, so we're going to move on from them. The majority of her youth was rather unremarkable. However, in 1922, at the young age of just 17, Elizabeth married a German impressionist painter who, to be honest, is not really that important to the story either, because after having 3 children over the course of 6 years, their marriage broke down. Elizabeth left her 3 children to her siblings and headed for the bright lights, cabaret clubs, and jazz bars of Berlin in 1929.
She just left the kids behind.
I mean, with sisters and stuff. I mean, it was a different time. Because
that's not going to be traumatic for them. They'll be fine.
Yeah, I think if the sisters were reasonable people,
I think most likely those children were traumatized by that.
Well, I mean, it was a long time ago, so we'll never know.
They're dead now, it's fine.
Probably. After a brief spell studying acting at the Deutsche Theater in Berlin, she began appearing on stage at various cabaret clubs and shows across Germany, including Ping Pong, Simpel, Cabaret de Comique, and Groschenkeller, all of whom were clubs that hosted songs, comedy, and political satire. Meanwhile, let's look at a more global scale. The stock markets crashed in the United States, and this had a devastating impact on Germany. Millions of people were thrown out of work, and several major banks collapsed. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party leapt on the chance to take advantage of the global emergency that was happening. They promised to strengthen the economy and provide jobs. They also promised a lot of other things that appealed to the far right leaning. But the mainstream argument was that they would strengthen the economy and provide jobs, something that we hear quite a lot about from populists today as well. Mm-hmm. So in 1933, the president appointed Hitler as the Chancellor of Germany, setting in motion a number of things which led to what we know today as World War II. That same year, Elizabeth decided that due to the political situation happening in her home country, she needed to leave Germany and relocate herself in Zurich, Switzerland, where she continued to perform at the Schauspielhaus cabaret.
Still without the kids?
Well, yeah, forget about the kids, mate. They're gone. They're not going to be mentioned again in this story. They're probably fine. They're in Germany, but forget about the kids. Okay. We'll move on from that. Let's call it a discrepancy. Okay.
Her 3 little discrepancies left behind.
In the discrepancies. It was at the Schauspielhaus Cabaret that she met Jewish composer Rolf Liebermann. The pair quickly fell in love, and over the next 2 years, the couple wrote and performed many songs. Despite being deeply in love, Elizabeth did turn down Liebermann's repeated marriage proposals, and she said this was due to her embarrassment about the failure to maintain a proper job and the fact that she abandoned her children and her previous failed marriage. In addition to this, Elizabeth was, of course, constantly warned about the risks that she would be taking by marrying into Judaism and at the time of the rise of the Nazis. Mm-hmm. At this time, also, there were increasing numbers of Jewish artists who began to follow Elizabeth's footsteps to Zurich. In Zurich, there was a local theatre which was run by a Jewish director who began giving sanctuary to refugees. Despite this, there was soon a crackdown by the Swiss police, who began to track down refugees and send them back into Germany to face persecution. In 1935, the Swiss police uncovered this Zurich theatre, which was giving sanctuary, and immediately apprehended the immigrants. Elizabeth and Rolf were torn apart during the raid, and Elizabeth was forced to leave Rolf in Switzerland for fear of his almost certain incarceration and possible murder in Germany due to his Jewish heritage.
Jesus.
Heartbroken, Elizabeth headed back to Munich, where she was allowed to continue performing under her new identity, Lale Andersen. So, Elizabeth has become Lale, and she took residency at the artist's pub called Simplicissimus, which was in the Bohemian quarter of Munich. During this time, Lale, as she was now known, stumbled across an old poem written by a young soldier during the First World War in memory of Lili and Marlene, 2 girls who he had loved. Lale worked with a composer friend of hers to set the poem to music, and she began performing it in the cafes and bars around Munich, and it was very well received by the audiences. She decided in 1939 to make her first record, and this song, now titled Lili Marlene, would be the vehicle for her success. The folks at home, she imagined, would relate to this story of a young man away from home. The soldiers on the front line would hear it on the wireless, and it would remind them of their hometown. The circumstances were just right for this type of song. Sadly, for Lale, the attention of the people of Germany was focused on other things other than songs, and she only sold a couple of hundred records, and her hopes were quickly dashed by the reality of the situation she was in. She returned to performing in the cafes and thought little more of her record.
I just can't stop thinking about the kids.
Cut, Isobel.
I don't even like children.
I think it was a long time ago, and I think the passing off of kids was more acceptable back then. Different time.
Well, back in my day, it was all right to just leave your kids at your sister's house and then move to Germany and then move to Zurich and then start a career and then change your name and then get married and then release an album. In my day, it was all right, that.
She's only done one thing wrong. I mean, yeah, it was passing off her kids to someone else. But so she's produced a record, didn't sell very well at all, and she's gone back to touring. So let's go back to the bigger picture here. Shortly after she published that record, on the 1st of September, as is well known, Hitler invaded Poland and effectively began the Second World War. By 1941, the German armies had advanced their forces and invaded the Kingdom of Yugoslavia and its capital city, Belgrade. So the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, bombed the city, but strategically left the Belgrade radio station and its tower untouched. This meant that when the soldiers marched in on foot, the German propaganda forces would be able to take over the station and broadcast its Nazi message to large swathes of Europe and North Africa. The propaganda team, what they would do is they would broadcast speeches from senior Nazi figures as well as their own fascist messages. But between the Nazi figures and the fascist speeches, they needed something to fill the gaps. They needed some filler, between all of that stuff.
You just need to get a bit more lighthearted. Once you've heard too much fascism, sometimes you just need to wind down a little bit.
Guys, I love what we're doing. But it could do with a little something just upbeat to keep the spirits up.
Tell us a fun story about a puppy that's made friends with a squirrel.
That sort of thing. Yeah. We're not cutting back on the fascist message, but we just need something to to keep everyone
just mellow it out a little bit.
Yeah. So one Nazi officer in the Belgrade radio station was told to return to one of the old disused radio stations and come back with some records for the Belgrade station to play. On arrival at the old station, the soldier discovered a pile of old records, many of which were cracked or destroyed. So he grabbed as many of the undamaged records as possible, shoved them into a bag, and returned to the station. That night, to finish the broadcast for the evening, they played the song Lili Marlene by Lale for the first time ever on the radio.
It was first played by Nazis.
First played by Nazis, yeah. Not her choice. I mean, she's not...
Yeah, not the best start to your career, is it?
But it's not Lale's choice. Let's be honest. She's, So, the reaction to this song was almost instant. The radio station was inundated with letters from the front line asking about the woman who sung the song and requesting they keep playing it. The demands were so much that the radio station decided to end their broadcast every night with that song. Now, interestingly though, the strength of the broadcast tower meant that even the Allied forces on the Western Front were able to listen in. And despite the song being in German, the Allied forces also fell in love with the haunting melody. And so thousands of soldiers from both sides of the battle would tune in to hear the song at the end of the night. And it was even said that for the 3 minutes and 25 seconds that the song was played, the gunfire would cease up and down the front line as soldiers listened to the words sung by Lale Andersen and thought of home. That's nice, isn't it? We're all getting pleasure from it.
Yeah, not just Nazis.
No, I know. Right. Yeah. But, yeah, okay. You need to forget about the whole kids thing. Lale's great. She's fine.
Oh, no, this isn't me being rude about Lale. This is me just pointing out that, it's great. Her song's really it's important to people.
Enjoyed by Nazis.
Most of them's Nazis. The Nazis love it. How's your music career going, Lale? It's all right. Yeah, it's okay. Nazis love it. Stuff. They love it. So that was good. Right now, for me, that's quite good, isn't it?
I mean, it only sold 200 records, but at least the Nazis
are into
like it. It's a tough situation to be in, sure. The Allied forces like it too. Okay, we'll move on from that. So, the success of this song did make Lale Andersen a household name, both in cities across Europe and on the front lines. However, all was not well for Lale, as Hitler's right-hand man and propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, who's pretty well known as a big old Nazi, he hated the song. He believed that the song was having a negative effect on the German troops by undermining their willingness to fight and make them lose confidence in the war.
Oh my God, he was bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, they all were.
They all were.
They all were. So
Hitler and Goebbels were a special kind of monstrous maniacs.
Monstrous, due to all the attention on Lale, Goebbels and his men arranged for her to be spied on by the Gestapo. At this same time, Lale was participating in a tour of the Warsaw Ghetto, which was the largest Jewish ghetto in Europe. She also maintained contact with her love, Rolf Lieberman, and other Jewish artists with whom she used to work. It was at this point that the Gestapo grabbed her, brought her in, and interrogated her.
Oh, shit.
She was told that she had to stop her disruptive behaviour and must cease all communications with Rolf. This, for Lale, was unthinkable, and after being interrogated for some time, she was released. And immediately she attempted to escape Germany once more by slipping onto a train bound for Switzerland. Sadly for her, the Gestapo had followed her, and as soon as she stepped onto the train, she was grabbed by the men and taken away.
Oh.
Lale was hauled in front of the Nazi Chamber of Culture, which was headed up by Joseph Goebbels, and she was confronted with her so-called offences to Germany. The men in the chamber shouted at her, telling her that she should be ashamed of herself, and after some debate, it was decided that she should be put under house arrest and banned from performing in public.
Like Patsy.
Like Patsy, for different reasons. I'm
the Nazi in this
You're
situation.
The
Nazi. Oh, Jesus.
I think it's fair to put her under house arrest for that, for her own safety.
This is for her safety, not so she can't speak to Jewish people.
Sure. She can speak to all the Jewish people she wants. That's fine.
It's very multicultural in Dalston. She's having a great time on a daily basis.
She doesn't discriminate.
Don't want her getting run over by a car.
Yes. So Lale did spend months in confinement, and at one point she even attempted to take her own life.
Oh, fucking hell! This is dark for a Tuesday
I'm so
evening, Roland.
I'm so sorry. At one, yeah, it is. At one point, however, the British forces got wind of Lale's house arrest, and the BBC, as part of their propaganda, knowing that they would be broadcast to Germans, they broadcast the tragedy that was the wonderful singer of Lili Marlene being incarcerated by these high-ranking German officers, so that the German citizens would be able to hear it. The German Chamber of Culture were forced to vehemently deny that they'd ever imprisoned her, and decided to allow Lale to perform again for the troops, just to prove that they'd never put her under house arrest. They did, however, tell Lale that she must never sing Lili Marlene again, and if she did, she would be sent to a concentration camp. So, the Ministry of Propaganda put on a show starring Lale for 300 or 400 German troops. But of course, as you would expect, they began demanding that she sing the song that they had all heard on the front line, Lili Marlene. This obviously put Lale on the spot. If she sang the song, it was a one-way ticket to a concentration camp. If she didn't sing it, she'd be betraying the only thing that she cared about. It was then that Lale had a bright idea. She had the band strike up the first few notes of the song and then turned to the audience and said, "I've sung this to you so many times. Now you sing it for me."
Oh, and she's found a loophole.
She's savvy, isn't she?
She's found a loophole. Technically, if she doesn't end up dead doing this,
it's a technicality.
Amazing, because if it's someone turned around to really trying to argue with Nazis about this, technically I didn't sing it. Actually, I think you'll find the rule was I wasn't allowed. I didn't do the singing. The audience did. Yeah, you're still going to the concentration camp. You are.
Wow. So the 400 or so young soldiers stood up and sung the entire song to her, without Lale singing a single word. Apparently, that was fine. Apparently, she got away with it.
That's mad.
So, due to her overwhelming popularity, the German Ministry of Propaganda began making more and more demands of her, demanding that she be available at any time to perform for troops, at ceremonial events, and on the radio. This increasingly angered and upset Lale, and eventually an old performer friend of hers offered her accommodation on a small island named Langug Island just off the coast of North Germany. And so Lale snuck away, awaiting the end of the war. Meanwhile, German cities were bombed day and night, food was becoming scarce, and things were looking increasingly bleak for the Nazis. The Allied forces marched into Germany and liberated large swathes of the country, and the Nazi Party collapsed, sealing the end of the Second World War. Lale quickly began performing again, and it became clear to her now that her song had not only reached the troops at home, but had spread across the continent, irrespective of boundaries or bunkers. Lale was singing, but this time it was for the liberating armies of the Allied forces, who sang along with her to the tune of Lili Marlene. Of course, at the front of her mind during this time was the idea of getting back to the man who was once her great love, Rolf Lieberman.
Still not bothered about going back to the kids.
She moved on. I mean, it was wartime. Anything could have happened to them at this stage. So,
they're dead.
To be fair, she might have got back with them at this point. I didn't find it out in the story. Nothing was mentioned. She might have brought them back in under her arms. We don't know. We just don't know. Forget about the kids. Doesn't matter. Not important. Anyway, she began corresponding with Rolf Lieberman, and they agreed that they would reunite on the shores of Lake Constance, which sits on the border of Germany and Switzerland. However, sadly, not every part of this story can play out like a Hollywood movie. Also, her whole kids part, maybe you wouldn't put in the Hollywood movie either. As after only a short amount of time, it became clear that their time apart had destroyed everything that they had. There was nothing left, no spark of love. Rolf Lieberman later explained, "You meet like strangers who do not even know what they should say to each other." Despite this, Lale's career took a fresh start. The first music concerts since the end of the war were broadcast from the Hamburger Musikhall, and Lale was invited to perform. She toured for many years for troops occupying Germany and across Europe, reminding the young men of home. So, Isabel, how does this all tie into Eurovision? I hear you ask. Well...
You do hear me ask that.
Well, let's just start with Rolf Lieberman. Just over a decade after the end of World War II, a small singing competition was turning on its cameras for the very first time. Eurovision. And who was the president of the jury? The man in charge of moderating the 7 international juries and finalising the results. That's right, it was Rolf Lieberman.
Oh.
But that's not all, Isabel. That's not the only link. For Lale, being able to perform on the Eurovision stage quickly became her ambition. In 1958, Lale entered into the German national finals, but sadly just missed out, coming second to Margot Hilscher. However, we know our Lale isn't one to give up easily, unless it's kids. That she gives those up.
I'm glad you got in there before I did.
After 3 years and at the age of 56, Lale won the German national final with the song Let's Meet Again and became the oldest participant in the Eurovision Song Contest, a record which surprisingly held all the way until 2008 when the 75-year-old Croatian entertainer known as 75 cents came 21st in the competition. I feel like we should probably write a story about 75 cents as well, but that's
almost
maybe for another
certainly
time. Yeah. Sadly, Lale placed only 13th out of 16 contestants in the final, but it takes more than that to knock her back. Lale continued to tour Europe, USA and Canada until her farewell tour called Goodbye Memories in 1967.
Goodbye, memories.
Goodbye,
farewell,
bye-bye.
children.
I'm off.
Ta-ra.
Off I go. Goodbye. In 1978, she released her best-selling autobiography called The Sky.
Where have my kids gone?
Doesn't matter.
Anyone seen my kids? Forgot about them. What kids?
Well,
What was it called? Sorry, what was it called?
She was called The Sky Has Many Colours at the age of 67. And then just a couple of months after this, Lale did sadly die. She quickly... I'm not laughing at that. I'm just laughing at...
It's the most depressing story of all time.
She did all right. I mean, she did
There
okay.
was a woman. She gave... I can condense this. I can give you the abridged version of this story,
okay,
right?
go on.
Okay.
Go on.
There was a woman who just gave her children away, was haunted by the Nazis for a very long time, repeatedly tried to escape, got separated from the love of her life, who she thought was dead, found him, they don't love each other anymore, went for Eurovision, she didn't do it, then she died.
I think I included the most dramatic parts of her story, sure, but I think there were bits in the middle that were probably fine. She probably had, times when she had a nice cake, loved that. sat in a nice garden, probably enjoyed that too. It's not important to the story. It's not relevant to the story, though, is it? Just like her kids weren't that relevant to the story.
Not relevant, mate.
Not relevant to the story.
No. Wow.
She was buried on Langug Island, where all those years before she'd escaped the Nazis to wait until the peace came. So, Isobel, I know it was a very front-heavy story and involved a short amount of Eurovision, but I feel like it's a story about how song can unite whether you are a Nazi or whether you're not a Nazi. So, there we go. happy Tuesday, everyone.
No, that was a great story, mate.
It was a pretty good story, sure. Yeah, it was a pretty good story.
No, that was really good. That's made me laugh a lot.
It's always tricky when you're talking about Nazis, isn't it? You know, it's always tricky. It's a story worth telling, though.
Oh my God, 100% it is. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on from Nazis, shall we? Let's move on to the part of the podcast where I try and do a song that I think could be a Eurovision.
Big with the Nazis?
Mash it. No, we've moved on from Nazis. We ain't doing Nazis. This week, I've been looking at a format or a style of song that has been very successful in Eurovision in the past and has created a song that I think is one of the most memorable songs in Eurovision history, but isn't done very much anymore. And that style of song, Isobel, is a song about or including a historical figure.
Rah, rah, Rasputin.
Well,
da, 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 da,
so
da.
but that wasn't a Eurovision song, was it?
No, I'm thinking of Genghis Khan. No.
Yes,
I got confused.
which is weird because I always think that Boney M song Rasputin is a Eurovision song. It's basically a Eurovision song that didn't enter Eurovision. It's about Russia. It's like disco pop. I listened to it today. It's a great song. So, inspired by both Genghis Khan and Rah Rah Rasputin, I have decided to write a song featuring as many historical figures as I can throw in. I've gone for quantity here.
Okay, not quality.
Well, we yet to see. It could be both. We don't know. So I have written a song, Isobel, called "Turn Back My Clock." Are you ready to hear "Turn Back My Clock"?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be, Roland.
Here we go. Not since Cleopatra loved Antony, has this feeling and so much, girl, you're the only thing I see. Back when Archimedes first exclaimed Eureka, all his smart as math can calculate how sexual we are. Look back through history, and girl, it ain't no mystery. When you invite me over, I can be your Casanova, baby. We're locked in the past, we're gonna move fast. Baby, baby, I'm gonna take you on a history tour. We'll keep on going, cause you're screaming for more. There ain't no era where you wouldn't look fine. So grab a hold, girl, we'll be moving through time. Turn back my clock, no one's done it better when you get me out. From now until the end of film, there's no one who can do it all to you. Turn back my clock, turn back my clock, turn back my clock, yeah. Turn back my clock. Just like Bill Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, we're the star-crossed lovers but won't end in suicide. And though King Henry had to go through many wives, I'd start my own religion just to help keep love alive. Now girl, our time has come, and while it lasted we had fun, but Einstein's theory says there's many worlds and girls for me to go and see. His cosmology is setting me free. Baby, baby, I'm gonna take you on a history tour. We'll keep on going, cause you're screaming for more. There ain't no era where you wouldn't look fine. So grab a hold, girl, we'll be moving through time. Turn back my clock, no one's done it better when you get me out. From now until the end of film, there's no one who can do it all to you. Turn back my clock, turn back my clock, turn back my clock, yeah. Turn back my clock. Isobel, there we go. That was Turn Back My Clock, a song with historical references. Isobel, what did you think of Turn Back My Clock?
You've gone back to your old ways, haven't you, Roland?
What's that now? What's my old ways? What's that?
Fitting in
Yeah.
too many words.
There's a lot of words in it.
It's so difficult to keep up with when it gets
Oh,
to the
no.
chorus. Turn back the
Yeah.
clock, and you fit it in and say some more words now.
Yeah. I like the rhythm. I just think my mouth doesn't move fast. I think if you got a good singer, right, they'd be able to enunciate. Just so you know, it's turn back the clock. No one does it better when you get me off. From now until Neanderthal, there's no one who could do it all till you turn back my clock. Turn back my clock. Turn back my clock.
I like that bit. Turn back my clock.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty
Turn
good,
back
isn't
my
it?
clock. You had the makings of a very fun disco track in there.
It's a good disco track, isn't it? Yeah.
But
Too many words.
Crammed it
Fuck.
full of too much nonsense.
Shit.
So there were some great lines in there. I like the Romeo and Juliet and we're not going to commit suicide. And I liked the bit about Henry VIII and I'll start a new religion.
A new religion for love.
For love. I liked that.
Again, a little bit of whitewashing though, because he did kill
murdered many women.
Many women. Yeah.
Many women. He was awful.
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like Lale's kids or whatever she was called.
Yeah, I mean,
dead now. Doesn't
sure.
matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. All right. Well, as we're short on time, should we just go straight to the points?
Let's do it, mate.
All right, Isobel. After last week's astonishing 12, amazing 12, which we were all very happy about, Isobel, how many points will you give Turn Back My Clock?
Cease.
6. Wow.
6. Yeah, it's not terrible.
No.
It's not terrible, but it's just distinctly average. If that came on at Eurovision, I'd go, oh, this is fun. No, wait, is it? No, it is fun. Oh, no. Oh, no, wait, it is. No, I'm confused again.
I don't like it.
You know, I'm flip-flopping back and forth.
Yeah. I think that's the lowest score we've got this season. But at least there was a song.
Look, mate, you had a 12 last week.
I know. I've got
high expectations of you now. I couldn't give this your 7 or above, could I? Now, when I know what you can do. You can do Boy Crush.
I wouldn't want you to do it just to.
I'd be letting you down if I gave this any higher.
Yeah. That's fine. So we've had really nice emails, a distinctly depressing story, and a very mediocre song. So
absolutely. So we've gone. We started on a high, dropped right down, and then ended up somewhere in the middle.
We ended up exactly where we started. So really, we've gained nothing from this
episode. Nothing whatsoever. Great. Well, again, that's the purpose of the podcast.
Yeah,
we want people to waste 90 minutes.
Yeah,
and gain nothing.
Gain absolutely zero. So if that's happened to you this episode, feel free to give us an email at europhoriapodcast@gmail.com or
you can tweet us at EurophoriaCast, at Isobel Chilman, at Roland Bodnam.
So as this podcast comes out, we are officially 2 weeks away from Eurovision 2019, which is amazing. I've had bunting delivered to my apartment with European flags. I've had little flags on sticks delivered. I even, because of the way the American tax system works, I got a tax return and spent it on a better speaker so that I can play the good Eurovision songs at the party that I'm hosting. It's all coming. So with that in mind, also your party that you're hosting completely sold out, right?
Oh my God, it's a right stress. Yeah. So currently... at time of recording, yes, it is sold out, but we may be moving it to a bigger venue.
Oh my God. That's exciting. That's what like big comedians do, don't they? They add another night. We can't add another night, so we'll expand. No.
We had gone for quite a small venue this year, and it was going to be more intimate. But it turns out actually we can't do that because we've already got another 20 plus people who want to.
Shit.
So, at time of recording, it's still sold out, and if you've got a ticket already, well done, and we're still in that venue. If by the time this comes out, we might have moved the venue. If so, I will post the link again on Twitter for anyone who wants to come if you're in and around London. And if you have already bought a ticket, you will be contacted to tell you the new venue. It will be nearby. It will be close enough. It will still be South London. But very exciting, yes.
Wow, that's impressive.
And in the week beforehand, I'm going to Berlin and Amsterdam.
Oh my
God.
Doing
a Euro tour.
You're doing your own Euro tour. That's exciting.
Exactly.
We will also be here before you. This won't be the last time you hear us before Eurovision. We are, so in the week of Eurovision, the day before or the day of, we haven't decided that, each semi-final, we're going to go through each semi-final songs and then add on a few of the big five to each episode where we review and rate each song on their likelihood. So the next time you hear us, it'll be the week of Eurovision. Everything will be going off. It'll be very exciting, and we will give you our rundown of all of the Eurovision 2019 songs. It's very exciting. Indeed. We have to do our homework, don't we?
We do, yes. And to do that, I need a good night's sleep.
Yeah,
so
it's late
finish.
Now. Okay, thank you so much for listening, everyone. Apologies for the slightly depressing story, but it is a good story anyway. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time for Eurovision 2019.
Woohoo!
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.